A modern luxury EV launch is almost guaranteed to feature a very specific photograph. The second row seat slowly reclines back into a flat position. The cabin is bathed in soft ambient lighting. It feels exactly like a high-end spa. The spec sheets advertise a 122-degree drop on the backrest and a fully floated leg rest. Marketing sells this as the lounge, or the throne, or the zero-gravity state. But a car is an object in motion. Out on the highway, traveling at 70 miles an hour, this environment is no longer static, and that creates a problem. The moment a passenger reclines to use this feature exactly the way the manufacturer suggests, the vehicle's entire restraint system stops working. We built the ultimate modern comfort object for a reality that does not actually exist on the road, turning a luxury feature into an active physical liability. Automotive safety relies on very specific geometry. Every belt anchor, pretensioner, and airbag inflation curve in a vehicle is tuned exclusively for a human torso sitting roughly vertical. Drop the backrest past 45 degrees, and that carefully tuned geometry collapses. The seatbelt no longer crosses the body where it needs to. This diagram illustrates a standard restraint system. As the backrest drops, the lap belt loses contact with the passenger's pelvis, sliding onto the abdomen. In a frontal impact, the unanchored body simply slips underneath the restraint. Engineers call this submarining. Recent frontal crash simulations mapped this exact scenario. For an occupant sitting at a 45-degree angle, 30% of the runs ended in submarining. The brochure prints the recline angle as a luxury upgrade. But past 25 degrees, that angle is a measurable physical trade-off that actively sacrifices pelvic restraint for a marketing number. Getting a seat like this into production requires ignoring a few internal alarms. The product lead wants a massive recline angle to boost the spec sheet, while the interior designer wants a beautiful, sculptural silhouette that looks great on camera. Meanwhile, the safety engineer needs the occupant to stay upright to survive a collision. The reason the final product slipped past those engineers is sitting in the crash lab. Current crash test dummies are built with rigid, upright torso architecture. They physically lack the articulation to model how a reclined body submarines in a crash. Now regulators are stepping in to close the gap. China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology recently drafted revisions explicitly targeting these zero-gravity seats, proposing strict caps on how far they can legally recline. In response, the automotive supply base is scrambling to fix the physics with hardware. Companies are developing entirely new restraint architectures, adding motorized collapse systems and dedicated pelvic airbags, all built simply to salvage the marketing promise. The auto industry successfully shipped a dangerous comfort feature because it was designed in a digital space and tested in a physical environment that couldn't replicate it. Today, design chiefs are staring at three expensive options: pay millions to add pelvic airbags and integrated belts, or accept a strict regulatory ceiling, or they can demote the feature to a parked-only gimmick that locks perfectly upright the moment the car is shifted into drive. They arrived at this dilemma because the executive sign-off was based on beautiful studio renders. Those images sold the luxury, but structurally hid the physical danger. Bridging the gap between the studio's imagination and the lab's reality is what DEPIX Design Intelligence is built for. Using AI, teams take a pristine marketing render and introduce the strict limits of physical reality. Exact belt geometry is layered directly over the photoreal occupant. Once that geometry locks into place, the conflict becomes obvious, providing hard evidence long before any metal is welded. Look back at the serene, glowing cabin from the opening brochure. This empty seat carries a complex engineering liability that remains invisible until the safety intelligence is brought into the studio. True design intelligence requires mapping the invisible costs of a feature while it is still just a sketch, because the render is the evidence and the decision is the product.